Good morning, friends. I'm going to try something different on my YouTube channel. I'm going to try reading a script that I have written and talking to you rather than a slideshow of a collection of pics and video clips. Welcome to the Orchid Sanctum. I am the Scarlet Priestess, Rhiannon Shadow Weaver, and this is my Priestess Reclamation podcast. Today we are going to talk more about shadow work. Carl Jung famously taught that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In this sanctuary, in this sanctum, this sacred space, we do not fear the dark. We consider it to be golden because we know that the darkness holds such treasures. It is the subterranean storehouse of your most raw power in its most true form. It's that rage that you were told to push down and keep quiet. It's the eroticism that you were told to exile to maintain this societally acceptable persona, especially as a woman. Shadow work is not a self-improvement project. It is an alchemical retrieval. You are descending to gather the fragmented pieces of your soul and then bringing them to the sacred grail of your womb, a primordial womb, a cosmic womb. And it's the only vessel in the cosmos that is capable of holding all of this stuff inside of you without judgment. Unfortunately, we often are trained from a very young age as women, especially in the West, to judge each other and ourselves very harshly. A little call to action here. Go ahead and hit follow so that you can stay with me on the path as I figure myself out, as we figure out ourselves and each other and the world around us. Claim that gnosis. I want you to comment below after you get through with the video. Let me know what you think. Let me know what resonated, what doesn't resonate, any questions that are triggered by the discussion that we have here. What part of your shadow are you ready to stop hiding, right? Is it your rage, your sensuality, despair? Start honoring it. You have to name it to claim it. And if you share the video with another woman who's also trying to navigate this path, it might help her out more than you think. So let's get into it. Today I'm going to break down some associations with the shadow, primordial feminine, crossroads, the gateway, the space between life and death, dark and light, as above, so below, all of those things. And we're going to start with many witches' favorite goddess, Hecate, Hecate, however you say it, however you spell it, you know who she is. I'm going to paint us a picture. We're going to begin this descent at the crossroads with Hecate, the light of awareness. In the ancient world, the trivium, the place where three roads meet, her sacred domain. In your journey, the crossroads represents the psychological tension between who you are and who you are becoming. We are always becoming and always ceasing to exist at the same time. As the queen of the underworld, Hecate holds the iron keys to your subconscious. She is the torchbearer who protects you as you enter the dark. At the crossroads, she asks you to choose. Will you remain in the safety of ignorance, or will you use her light, her torch, to look at your triggers? She teaches you to see these triggers not as enemies, but as signposts, the very keys that unlock your hidden power. Deepening our descent into that underworld, we meet Kali, the Dark Mother. And in mythology, Kali realized to end the cycle of the demon that she was created to kill, she had to drink his blood before it hit the earth, because it would hit the earth and just create more demons, right? Just as we must consume our repressed trauma before it creates 1,000 toxic behaviors. We have to stop the bleeding before we bleed on everyone else. Akali demands radical honesty in order to do this. There are no illusions and delusions with her. You must drink your own shadow, tasting that bitterness of rage, shame so completely that it has no place left to take root. That a light is completely shined on it. It has been fully inspected, fully consumed, fully integrated. She severs your attachments to false identities, reclaiming that life force and returning it to your center. Next, we might come, as we deepen our descent further beyond the veil, face to face with Santa Muerte. We're going to call her Scythe, the Scythe of Acceptance. Now that the masks are off from Kali and we've begun our descent, still following Hecate, Santa Muerte waits for us. She is the Aztec queen of the underworld. She is the guardian of the bones, the very framework of our being, the precious seeds of new life in Aztec mythology. You cannot make life without bones. Bones are forever, right? Through every lifetime, you have the same bones. She is the great leveler. And in this phase, you're called and invited to sit with the corpses of your many lives. Those parts of yourself that you've judged as shameful, that you've tried to bury. And we sit with them without the ego that is required to keep them hidden. Santa Muerte and her scythe facilitate that final ego death several times. Showing you what lies in the dark becomes nutrient-rich fertilizer for rebirth. Continuing on the path, we might recognize this as the path of Ishtar's descent into the underworld with her sister Ereshkigal. To reach the great below, she surrendered 7 layers of her power at 7 gates. Her crown, her jewels, her robes. Each gate asks, who are you without your titles? Who are you without your defenses? At the final gate, Ishtar stands naked before her dark sister, her shadow self, the personification of the primordial being that we were born as that has been repressed, is Ereshkigal. Ishtar gets struck dead, hung on a meat hook, and this is the symbol of total ego surrender, right? Absolute nothingness. And then integration happens. You realize the queen above and the queen below meet within that sacred grail, that womb connection, that clearing, that cleansing. You could also liken this to the journey of Mary Magdalene, the 7 keys of the grail with her. Emerging from the depths, finally beginning our descent out of the underworld, we may face her, the apostle of the flesh. She reminds you that the shadow is stored in your hips, in your throat, and your blood. To hold the frequency of a sovereign priestess, you must turn those 7 devils of your exile into the 7 virtues of the grail, of the wound, of the soul, spirit. Those 7 devils or keys would be fear of death or not surviving. We do this by occupying space, being rooted in our own presence without needing someone else. We also conquer shame and guilt with fluidity and creativity, embracing sacred pleasure over profane vices, over profane distractions, dissociations. We are present and grounded in that pleasure to chase away shame. We do that with the sacral chakra. We overcome the hunger for power through our will, our ethics, our hard lines in the sand, our boundaries, through the solar plexus. Eventually, we begin to manifest. We overcome the pain, the wound of grief and betrayal through compassion, through forgiveness, through kindness, through learning not to judge, and by opening our heart chakra. We put on the armor of vulnerability, knowing that we cannot be destroyed just because someone doesn't meet our vulnerability with the softness that we desire. No one can break you. We learn to open our throat and speak our truth rather than muzzle ourselves by opening that throat chakra and by sharing the gnosis that we've gained, the knowledge that we have with others. We overcome spiritual blindness and develop our third eye and inner vision, intuition, discernment, by claiming that intuition, not denying it, standing in that spiritual authority. And finally, we overcome the illusion of separation by recognizing that consciousness is unified, by balancing and acknowledging the crown chakra. Mary Magdalene teaches us that shadow work is somatic. It is our body. It is aligning our soul, our energy with our body, our physical vessel. You do not think your way out. You breathe your way through. These virtues can be firmly rooted in that womb energy. Finally, we come to the archetype of the spider, as I like to call her, grandmother spider, sitting at the center of everything, weaving her web of fate. And she asks you, what will you do with these threads? Your trauma at this point, no longer a wound that is crippling you, but a thread of silk. With the 7 virtues, with all that we've learned, we begin to weave a new web of fate, of destiny. This is how we change our fate. Rooted presence becomes career. Radical truth commands our relationships. And sovereign will blesses our boundaries. You take the nothingness of the dark and you spin it into a web of power. Sovereign reclamation, the reclamation of the priestess archetype, is truly the completion of this descent into the underworld and the overcoming of the wilds, the mastering of the Scarlet Woman, and the embodiment of the divine primordial feminine on earth. Faced the darkness, held the keys, woven the web. We've always had the feminine archetypes to explain this work. Long before the subconscious, there was the cave of Hecate and the descent of Ishtar. The primordial cosmic womb is the only vessel strong enough to hold the void, the universe in all that it is and all that it isn't. You are a priestess. You don't have to limit yourself and put yourself in boxes like merely spiritual, merely associated with this religion, merely a witch, merely a bruja, merely a shaman or a folk healer. Why does the word priestess make us cringe? Why does it make us shy away? Why does it sound so egotistical? You're the weaver of your fate. You're commanding your reality. You're integrating your shadows, your traumas, your demons. Your healing is in your hands. You heal others. You nurture others. You destroy. You create. Why are we so quick to claim the archetype of goddess, but not priestess? Why does that somehow bring forth feelings of anxiety and imposter syndrome? But merely saying I'm a goddess and I deserve to be treated like one has become watered down into this yes, queen rhetoric. It's a sacred work. It's not a game. So I challenge you to really learn what it means to identify with a priestess archetype. Start using different language. Observe how it makes you feel. Observe how it changes your energy and the way that you interact with the world. Step into a new level of personal power. Shadow work can be difficult, but there are treasures in the dark and in the things that we don't want to confront. Until next time, I'm Rhiannon, and this is the Priestess Reclamation podcast.